Keanu Reeves woke up that morning with a quiet heart. It was his birthday, but he had no plans. To him, birthdays were not days for loud celebration or grand attention. He liked peace, he liked silence, and he liked the feeling of being unnoticed, in a world that always tried to watch him. But deep inside, there was a small ache he never admitted to anyone. He wished, just once, someone would surprise him not with luxury, not with fame, but with pure kindness. The day started simple. Keanu made his own coffee, fed the dog he had adopted, and sat on the balcony of his home, looking at the city stretching under the morning sun. People walked fast, cars rushed on the streets, and everyone looked busy chasing something. He sipped his coffee and whispered to himself, "Another year, another journey." But something felt different in the air. He could not explain it. It was like the world was holding a secret, waiting for him. By noon, a few messages had come to his phone. Some from fans, some from old friends, and some from people in Hollywood who wanted to look polite. He read them, smiled gently, and replied with short thank you notes. But none of them touched his heart. They felt like routine, like words spoken out of habit, not emotion. As he closed his phone, the doorbell rang. Keanu stood up slowly, wondering who it could be. He was not expecting anyone. When he opened the door, he saw Ana de Armas standing, there with a warm smile and a simple paper bag in her hand. "Happy birthday, Keanu," she said softly. Her voice carried no drama, no big announcement, only sincerity. Keanu blinked in surprise. He had worked with Ana before, and he admired her humility, but he never thought she would come to his home like this. "Ana, you did not have to," he whispered. "I know," she replied, "but I wanted to." She walked inside with a natural ease, as if kindness itself had opened the door. She placed the paper bag on the table. Inside, there was no expensive gift, no golden watch, no diamond pin. There was only a small homemade cake wrapped in simple foil and a handwritten note folded carefully beside it. Keanu touched the bag, gently, almost afraid to disturb it. "You made this?" he asked, his eyes wide, not with shock but with gratitude. Ana nodded. "I remembered you once said that you missed the days when birthdays were small, when people baked something with love instead of buying something with money. So I baked this for you. It is not perfect, but it is real." Her words struck Keanu like sunlight breaking through clouds. He sat down slowly, holding the note in his hand, and felt a wave of emotion rise inside him. No one had done something so personal for him in years. The world always offered him fame, but rarely offered him heart. He opened the note and read the words written in simple handwriting. "Dear Keanu, thank you for being someone who reminds the world that kindness is stronger than fame. You inspire people not because you are a star, but because you are human. Happy birthday." Keanu's throat tightened. He looked at Ana and saw in her eyes not pity, not admiration, but respect. True, quiet respect. "This means more than you know," he whispered. Ana smiled. "I know, because I believe the smallest kindness often becomes the biggest memory." The room fell silent, but it was not an empty silence. It was the silence of comfort, of unspoken understanding. For the first time in years, Keanu felt his birthday was not a reminder of time passing, but a reminder that kindness could still surprise him. And yet, as peaceful as the moment was, he did not know that this simple cake, this simple gesture, would begin a chain of events that would test not only his heart but hers too. Because sometimes, the smallest acts carry the heaviest weight, and life has ways of turning kindness into destiny. The small cake on the table became more than just food. It became a bridge between two souls who understood something deeper about life. Keanu cut a small slice carefully, like it was fragile, and placed it on a plate. He tasted it, and the sweetness was not in the sugar but in the intention. He closed his eyes and smiled. "This tastes like memory," he said softly. Anna tilted her head. "What do you mean?" "When I was younger," Keanu explained, "my sister would bake cakes on birthdays. They were not perfect, sometimes too soft, sometimes too burnt at the edges. But I never forgot them. Your cake feels like that. Like someone remembered me not as a star, but as a person." Anna's smile grew wider, but her eyes softened too. "That is exactly what I wanted," she replied. They sat together, sharing the cake, but as the quiet moments passed, Anna noticed something. She saw the way Keanu's hands trembled slightly when he held the fork. She saw how his gaze wandered, often to the balcony, as if searching for something far away. "Keanu," she asked gently, "why do I feel like today means more to you than you let on? You look almost lost." Keanu put the fork down slowly. He did not want to burden her with his feelings, but there was something about her presence that made honesty feel safe. "Birthdays remind me of the people I lost," he admitted. "My parents, my sister, my best friend. They are not here anymore. So each year when the day comes, I smile for the world, but inside I feel the silence of those who are gone." Anna lowered her gaze, her heart heavy with his confession. She knew about some of his tragedies, but hearing it from his own lips made it more real. "I am sorry," she whispered. "That must feel like carrying stones in your chest." "Yes," he nodded. "And some days the stones feel heavier than others." There was a pause. The air in the room grew thick with unspoken emotion. But then Anna leaned forward, her tone firm yet tender. "Maybe you carry those stones because you are strong enough to keep their memory alive. Grief is not weakness, Keanu. It is proof that you loved deeply, and love never dies." Her words struck him again, like a candle lit in a dark cave. His eyes shimmered with a rare softness, the kind that only appears when pain meets compassion. He looked at her closely and asked, "Why are you really here, Anna? I do not think this is just about a birthday cake." Anna hesitated for a moment. Then she sighed and confessed, "You are right. It is not only about the cake. I wanted to remind you that even in the silence of your pain, there are people who care. I know you live quietly. I know you avoid attention. But sometimes the strongest people need someone to remind them that they are not alone." Keanu's chest tightened again, but this time with gratitude, not sorrow. He leaned back, closing his eyes, letting her words sink into him. And then, something unexpected happened. A sudden knock on the door echoed through the house. Keanu and Anna exchanged surprised glances. He was not expecting anyone else. He stood up and walked to the door. When he opened it, he froze. There stood a young man, barely in his 20s, with nervous eyes and a small envelope in his hand. "Mr. Reeves?" the young man stammered. I am sorry to disturb you. I work at the bookstore down the street. I heard today is your birthday, and I wanted to give you this. It is nothing big, just something I wrote." He held out the envelope with trembling hands. Keanu accepted it gently, speechless for a moment. "Thank you," Keanu said finally, his voice soft but steady. The boy nodded quickly and left, almost running away from the awkwardness of the moment. Keanu closed the door and turned back to Anna, holding the envelope like it was a treasure. He opened it and found a small handwritten letter. It read, "Dear Mr. Reeves, you may never know how many lives you touched just by being yourself. When I was at my lowest, I watched you in interviews and your words gave me hope. Thank you for being kind in a world that often forgets kindness. Happy birthday." Keanu's hand shook as he read. The words were raw, honest, and real. His throat ached as he whispered, "Why today? Why is the world suddenly reminding me of kindness today?" Anna's eyes glistened. Maybe because the world knew you needed it more this year. Keanu sat back down, holding the letter in one hand and looking at Anna with a question in his heart. Was this just a coincidence? Or was there something greater unfolding? Something that would change not only his birthday, but the path of his days to come? The suspense grew stronger in his chest. He had lived through pain, but now it seemed like life was placing unexpected kindness before him, piece by piece. He did not know yet, but this day was only the beginning of a journey. He never imagined. The letter from the young man lay open on the table, its words glowing brighter than any candle could. Keanu kept staring at it, his chest rising and falling, slowly, as if every sentence carried a weight he had not been ready to feel. Anna sat quietly across from him, watching the way his silence spoke louder than words. "You see," Anna said softly, "you are not invisible, Keanu. The kindness you gave to others found its way back to you today. This is not chance. This is a reminder." Keanu lifted his eyes to her, and in them was a storm of emotions: gratitude, confusion, and an old ache he thought he had buried. "But why now?" he whispered. "For so many years, I walked alone, thinking kindness was something I only gave away, not something I would ever receive in return. Why is it all coming back today, of all days?" Anna leaned forward, her hands folded on the table. "Maybe because birthdays are not just about age. They are checkpoints, moments when life asks you to pause and see what you mean to the world. Today, the world is answering you back." Her words soothed him, yet deep inside another feeling grew. It was fear. Fear of opening his heart too wide, fear of depending on kindness that might fade. He had been let down before, and scars reminded him to be careful. The air in the room grew heavy, and for a moment, silence returned. But then Anna stood up and walked toward the window. Outside, the city lights were beginning to glow as the evening approached. She looked at them and said, "The world out there is full of noise, but here, right now, there is peace. Hold on to this moment, Keanu. Do not run from it." Keanu followed her gaze. The lights twinkled like distant stars, and he wondered if somewhere among them his lost loved ones were watching. His sister, his best friend, his parents. Did they know he was being reminded that kindness still lived in the world? He felt his throat tighten again, and this time he did not hide it. His eyes grew moist, and a single tear slipped down his cheek. Anna turned, saw it, and without hesitation, walked to him. She placed her hand gently on his shoulder, not to comfort him like a child, but to stand beside him as an equal. "You are allowed to cry," she whispered. "You are allowed to feel. Strength is not about holding everything inside." Those words broke something inside him, but in breaking, they freed him. For years he had built walls around his pain, but now, piece by piece, they were falling. He leaned his head forward, and for the first time in a long time, he let the tears flow without shame. Anna did not speak. She simply stayed near, her presence steady, her silence kind. Sometimes comfort is not in words, but in being there when someone finally lets go. When the wave of emotion calmed, Keanu wiped his face and let out a long breath. "Thank you," he said hoarsely. Anna smiled gently. "You do not have to thank me. I did not give you anything new. I only reminded you of what was already inside you." Before Keanu could reply, his phone buzzed again on the table. He glanced at it, expecting another routine message, but what he saw froze him. It was an unknown number, and the message read, "Meet me at the small park near your house tonight. There is something I must give you. It is about someone you once lost." His hands stiffened. Anna noticed his sudden stillness. "What is it?" she asked. He handed her the phone silently. Her eyes widened as she read the message. This could be anything," she said, her voice tense. "Are you sure it is safe?" Keanu shook his head slowly. I do not know, but something tells me I cannot ignore this, not tonight. Anna's brow furrowed with worry. Then I am coming with you, she said firmly. Dottie looked at her, hesitating. Anna, you do not have to involve yourself in this. It could be nothing. Or, she interrupted, it could be everything. And if it has to do with someone, you lost. You should not face it alone. Keanu saw the determination in her eyes and knew she would not step back. He nodded slowly. All right. We will go together. As night settled over the city, the two of them stepped out of his quiet home and walked toward the park. The streets were calmer now, the rush of the day fading into the hush of evening. Keanu carried the weight of the message in his mind, while Anna walked beside him, ready to face whatever truth or surprise awaited them. He could not shake the feeling that this night would reveal something hidden, something that might change the meaning of not only his birthday, but his life. Asterisk. The park was quiet when Keanu and Anna arrived. The night air carried a soft chill, and the faint sound of leaves moving in the wind made the place feel both peaceful and mysterious. A few street lamps stood at a distance, casting pale light on the path, but most of the park lay in shadows. Keanu's steps were steady, yet inside his chest his heart pounded. He held the memory of the strange message like a stone in his hand, heavy and cold. Anna walked beside him, her presence calm but watchful, her eyes scanning the dark corners. They reached the small wooden bench near the fountain, the very spot the message had mentioned. The fountain was old, its water falling gently, echoing through the silence. Keanu looked around, but no one was there. Maybe it was a mistake, Anna whispered, though her tone carried doubt. Keanu shook his head. No, someone sent this for a reason. We just need to wait. They sat on the bench together, the silence stretching longer with each passing minute. Then, out of the shadows, a figure slowly appeared. It was the young man from the bookstore, the same one who had delivered the letter earlier that day. But now his face looked more serious, almost troubled. Keanu stood. You? Why did you send this message? The young man lowered his head. I am sorry if it frightened you, Mr. Reeves. I had no other way. I could not say this earlier at your house, but I know someone who was close to your sister, and he asked me to pass something to you. Keanu's breath caught. The mention of his sister felt like an arrow piercing through old wounds. My sister? He asked, his voice breaking slightly. The boy nodded and pulled a small envelope from his pocket. It was old, the paper slightly yellow, the edges worn as if it had been hidden for years. This was given to me by a man who said he once cared for your family, the boy explained. He told me to wait until your birthday to give it to you. He said today would matter more than any other day. Keanu reached out, his hands trembling as he took the envelope. He stared at it, unable to open it right away. The weight of memories pressed against him, the laughter of his sister, the nights they spent talking about dreams, the silence that followed when she was gone. Anna touched his arm gently. It is all right, Keanu. Open it when you are ready. He nodded slowly and tore the envelope open with care. Inside was a folded piece of paper, written in his sister's handwriting. The sight of her familiar letters made his vision blur. Instantly, with tears, he read the words silently, his lips moving as his heart sank deeper into the message. Dear Keanu, if you are reading this, then I am no longer by your side. But please do not let grief build walls around your heart. You were always the one who carried light, even in the darkest rooms. Do not forget that kindness is your strength, not your weakness. One day, people will remind you of this when you forget it yourself. Let them love you. The words broke him. He lowered the paper, his tears falling freely now. Anna leaned closer, holding his shoulder as he bent forward, covering his face with his hands. She knew, he whispered through his tears. She knew I would need this. She knew I would forget. Anna's own eyes shone with emotion as she said, "Then today is not an accident. The cake, the letter, this message, it is all connected. Life chose this day to give you back what you lost inside." The young man stood quietly, unsure if he should stay or leave. Finally, he spoke in a low voice. "The man who gave me this said something else too. He said there is more, but I was told to wait until you were ready. He said you must, first, believe again in the power of kindness." Keanu lifted his head, his face wet, but his eyes sharper than before. "Where is this man?" he asked. The boy shook his head. "I do not know exactly, but he promised he would reveal himself soon. He only said, 'Tell Keanu his journey is not finished.'" The words echoed in Keanu's mind like thunder rolling in the distance. "His journey is not finished." Anna took his hand, squeezing it gently. "Keanu, maybe this is not just about your birthday. Maybe this is about finding a new purpose." He looked at her, his heart heavy but also strangely alive, as if a door had opened inside him. He realized now that the day was no longer just a birthday. It had become the beginning of something greater, something that tied the past to the future. And yet, deep inside, he knew this was only the first step. More surprises waited in the shadows of tomorrow. The night grew colder as Keanu, Anna, and the young man stood in the park. The letter from his sister felt like a fragile flame in his hand, glowing softly against the darkness of his grief. Keanu folded it carefully, pressing it to his chest as if it could bring her back for just one more moment. Anna's eyes stayed on him, steady and full of quiet strength. She knew words could not heal everything, but presence could. And so she did not rush him. She did not push him. She simply stood there with him, letting the silence breathe. Finally, Keanu lifted his head. "You said the man told you there is more," he said to the boy. "Where did you meet him?" The boy hesitated. "I saw him once outside the bookstore. He looked older, tired, but wise. He gave me the envelope and said I would know the right time to deliver it. I asked his name, but he only smiled and said, 'Tell Keanu I am a friend of kindness.'" The phrase struck Keanu strangely. "A friend of kindness," he repeated under his breath. It sounded almost unreal, like something from a dream. Anna spoke softly. "Maybe he is someone who crossed paths with your family long ago. Someone who saw your sister's spirit and carried her words." Keanu nodded slowly, though doubt and curiosity tangled inside him. "Then we must find him. I cannot walk away from this now." The boy shook his head. "He said you will not find him. He will find you when the time is right." Those words fell heavy in the air. They offered no clear path, only a promise wrapped in mystery. As they walked back from the park, Anna glanced at Keanu. "Are you all right?" she asked. He let out a deep breath. "I do not know. Part of me feels heavier. Part of me feels lighter. It is as if my sister's voice reached across time to remind me of who I am. But it also leaves me wondering, what comes next? What is this journey I am supposed to continue?" Anna touched his arm gently. "Maybe you do not need all the answers tonight. Maybe it is enough to know you are not alone anymore." Her words soothed him for a moment, but his heart still carried a restlessness. As they reached his home, Keanu invited the boy inside. "Stay for a while," Keanu said. "You have carried something precious for me. I want to know more about you." The boy looked nervous but nodded. Once inside, they sat together at the table. Keanu poured tea while Anna placed the cake back in the center, a symbol of where this all began. "Tell me," Keanu said, "why? Did you trust this man? Why keep a letter for someone you did not even know personally?" The boy hesitated before speaking. Because he reminded me of you, gentle, patient, and kind. When he spoke about your sister, his eyes were full of respect. He said grief is heavy, but if I helped deliver his message, I would also be part of giving hope back to someone who gave hope to others. Keanu studied the boy's face carefully. His honesty shone clear. He was not lying. Anna leaned forward. "What is your name?" "Daniel," the boy answered softly. Keanu repeated it, with a small nod. "Daniel, thank you. You may not realize it, but today you carried more than a letter. You carried a piece of my heart back to me." Daniel's eyes shimmered with quiet pride, though he lowered his gaze humbly. The night stretched on, and the three of them sat together sharing stories. Keanu spoke about his sister, about the quiet moments they had shared, and Daniel listened with respect. Anna added her own thoughts, reminding Keanu again that his strength was not in hiding his pain, but in honoring it. Yet, as the hours passed, and the house grew still, a knock suddenly echoed on the door again. Keanu's heart skipped. It was late, far too late for visitors. He stood slowly, his body tense, and moved to open the door. When he did, there was no one standing outside. Only a small box lay on the ground. He picked it up carefully, his pulse quickening. Anna and Daniel stood behind him, watching closely. Keanu placed the box on the table and opened it. Inside was a simple object, an old pocket watch. Engraved on its back were the words, "Time does not take love away. It only teaches us to carry it differently." Keanu froze. His sister had once owned a watch just like this. His voice trembled. "This belonged to her. I remember it. But how did it find its way back to me?" Anna's eyes widened, and Daniel leaned closer, his face pale with shock. Someone out there knew more than they could imagine. Someone was watching, guiding, and waiting for the right moment to step out of the shadows. And Keanu realized then that his birthday was no longer a quiet day of silence. It had become the start of a path filled with mystery, grief, and a new kind of hope. One that would test him in ways he had never expected. The pocket watch lay on the table, glowing faintly under the soft light of the lamp. Its surface was worn, its edges slightly scratched. But to Keanu, it looked like treasure. His fingers traced the engraving again and again, as if touching it could bring his sister back for one more conversation. Anna and Daniel sat close, watching him carefully. The silence in the room felt alive, filled with questions none of them dared to ask too quickly. Finally, Keanu broke the silence. "This was hers," he whispered. "I remember the sound it made when she opened it. She said the ticking reminded her that time may pass, but love stays." His voice cracked at the last words, and Anna reached for his hand. "Keanu, this cannot be a coincidence. Someone who knew your sister is leaving you these signs. They want you to see something." Daniel leaned forward nervously. "But who? And why now? Why on this day?" Keanu closed his eyes for a moment, listening to the quiet ticking of the watch. "Because today I was ready," he answered. "My sister wrote that I would need reminding. Maybe the universe waited until the moment my heart was open enough to hear it." Anna looked at him deeply. "Then maybe this is not just a message from the past. Maybe it is a call to the future. Maybe it is telling you to live differently now." Before Keanu could reply, the doorbell rang again. This time, the sound was sharper, louder, as if demanding to be answered. He stood, his heartbeat racing, and walked to the door. When he opened it, there was no package, no gift, but a single folded note lying on the ground. He picked it up and brought it inside. With careful hands, he unfolded it. The words were written in firm handwriting. "The watch is only the beginning. Follow its sound tomorrow at sunset. You will find me where time itself seems to stand still." Keanu read the words aloud, his voice low. Anna and Daniel exchanged wide-eyed glances. "What does that mean?" Anna asked. Keanu stared at the watch again, listening to its steady ticking. "There is a place," he said slowly. "An old clock, tower near the edge of the city. When I was young, I would go there with my sister. She said it felt like time stopped when we sat on the steps and listened to the bells. Maybe that is where I need to go." Anna nodded firmly. "Then we will. Go together." Daniel shifted uncomfortably. "Are you sure this is safe? What if this person is not what they seem?" Keanu looked at him calmly. "Safety is not always the point, Daniel. Some truths are worth the risk." The night passed with restless silence. Keanu held the watch close as he tried to sleep, its ticking echoing in his ears like his sister's heartbeat. Anna stayed awake longer than him, watching over the quiet room, her thoughts heavy. She knew tomorrow could change everything. For better or for worse, the next day moved slowly, each hour stretched by expectation. Keanu hardly spoke, his mind fixed on the promise of sunset. When the sky began to turn orange, he stood, holding the watch firmly, and said, "It is time." Anna joined him, her presence steady, and Daniel followed despite his fear. Together, they drove through the city until they reached the old clock tower. Its tall structure rose against the fading light, its bells silent, its walls covered in ivy. It looked forgotten, yet strangely alive. The three of them walked up the stone steps, each footstep echoing in the hollow silence. At the top, they stood in front of the great wooden doors. Keanu held the watch close to his ear. Its ticking seemed louder here, almost guiding him forward. He pushed the doors open slowly. Inside, the air was cool and smelled of dust and old memories. The tower's gears stood tall and silent, frozen in time. And there, standing near the base of the clock's mechanism, was a figure. An older man with silver hair and a calm face, dressed in a simple coat. He looked at Keanu with eyes that held both sadness and warmth. "You came," the man said softly. Keanu's breath caught. "Who are you?" The man stepped closer, his expression kind yet firm. "Someone who promised your sister I would watch over her memory. Someone who has waited years for the right moment to return what was lost." Anna and Daniel froze in shock, their eyes locked on the mysterious man. Keanu's voice trembled as he asked, "You knew her?" The man nodded slowly. "Yes, Keanu. I knew her better than you think. And I have something to tell you that will change everything you believed about her last days." The words struck like thunder, and the air in the tower grew heavy with suspense. Keanu felt his heart pound, his hands tighten around the watch. He knew in that moment his life was about to be rewritten. The old clock tower stood silent around them, its giant gears frozen in time. The air carried a weight that made every breath feel heavy. Keanu's hands tightened around the pocket watch, its ticking steady against his palm, grounding him as he faced the man who had stepped from the shadows of his past. "Tell me," Keanu said, his voice low but steady. "What do you know about my sister?" The older man looked at him for a long moment, his eyes filled with a mixture of sorrow and gentleness. "I was with her in her final days," he said slowly. "She asked me to carry her words to you when the moment was right. But more than that, she asked me to remind you that her life was not only about loss, it was about love. She wanted you to live, not bury yourself in silence." Keanu's throat tightened. "Why didn't you come sooner? Why wait all these years?" The man sighed. "Because you were not ready. Grief had built walls around you, and breaking those walls too early would have destroyed you. She believed one day kindness itself would open you again. And today, when I saw the cake, the letter, the watch, all signs told me the time had come." Anna stepped closer, her eyes soft but questioning. "Who are you really?" The man's gaze shifted to her, then back to Keanu. My name does not matter. What matters is that I was a friend to your family, someone who carried their trust. I was there when your sister wrote the letter you read last night. She told me, one day he will forget who he is. When that day comes, remind him with love. And so I waited. Keanu's eyes glistened with tears. He looked down at the watch in his hand, the ticking filling the silence. She knew me so well, he whispered. Even in her last days, she was thinking of me. The man nodded. That was her way of living, always giving, never taking. And now it is your turn to carry her spirit forward. You have spent years giving kindness to strangers. Now you must allow others to give it back to you. Do not push it away. Keanu closed his eyes, letting the words settle deep in his chest. For years, he had carried grief like a chain, thinking it was the price of love. But now he realized grief was also a bridge, a way to carry the memory of love into the future. Anna placed her hand on his arm. Keanu, she said softly, you are not alone anymore. Your sister's love did not end. It lives through you, through the kindness you give, through the lives you touch. And now you see, it also comes back to you. Daniel, standing quietly, finally spoke. Maybe that is why I was chosen to bring you the letter. Maybe it was not just about her words. It was about showing you that even strangers can carry love forward. Keanu turned to him, his eyes filled with gratitude. Yes, Daniel, you reminded me of that. The old man stepped back, his face calm, almost peaceful. My work is done, he said. Her wish has been fulfilled. The rest is your journey. Keanu took a step forward. Wait, will I ever see you again? The man smiled faintly. You will not need to, because every time you choose kindness, every time you let someone love you, you will see her. You will see all of them. And with that, he turned and walked into the shadows of the tower, disappearing as quietly as he had appeared. Keanu stood in silence, his heart heavy but also lighter than it had been in years. He looked at Anna and Daniel, their eyes reflecting the same mixture of sadness and hope. She wanted me to live, he whispered. And now, I finally understand. Anna smiled softly. Then let this birthday be the first day of that new life. Keanu looked at the watch one last time before placing it gently in his pocket. The ticking no longer sounded like a reminder of loss. It sounded like a promise that love does not die, it only changes its form. They stepped out of the tower. Together, the night sky above them filled with stars. For the first time in years, Keanu felt those stars were not distant. They were watching over him, just as his sister always had. As they walked back, he turned to Anna and said, Thank you for the cake. Thank you for reminding me of what I forgot. Anna shook her head. It was not me, Keanu. It was kindness. I only carried it to you. Keanu smiled, and it was a smile that carried both sorrow and strength. A smile that belonged to a man who had learned that grief does not end life. It reshapes it. And so his birthday, once a quiet day of silence, became the day he began again. Not as a man hiding from pain, but as a man ready to honor love with every act of kindness he gave and received.